Colors are important in landscape photography post-processing, but it's easy to mess up the colors when you edit. And in this video I will show you 6 of the most important tools to adjust colors in Lightroom, and I show you when to use them and how to use them. Hi there, I'm Kim from Landscape to Art, and I'm here to help you improve your landscape photography and by focusing on developing your skills as a photographer and less on the gear you use. And if this is your first time here, make sure that you click the subscribe button below. I often get the question, how do I get my colors pop when I edit my landscape photos? It is an important question because colors are important as they draw the viewer's attention. And you can totally change the mood in a photo by modifying the colors. But it's also easy to ruin an otherwise nice photo with the wrong color adjustments. Lightroom has several tools you can use to adjust colors. Some of the tools are global, which means that the adjustments you make have an impact on the whole image. And the other is local adjustment tools. So they are targeted, and you can select specific colors and tones in your image and only apply the adjustments to these specific areas. And the last tool I will talk about is a little secret, but for landscape photographers this is an important little tool to be aware of. So make sure you stay till the end of the video, and because you will definitely not miss this little trick. So let's get going and have a look at the first of the tools I'm going to go through in the video. The first tool is the white balance adjustment. White balance sets the overall mood in a photo, and basically when you adjust the white balance you make the photo look cooler or warmer. And with the camera set to auto white balance, the camera will try to make the colors as neutral as possible. And most modern cameras are pretty good at this, but in some situations you need to change something. You need to do a minor adjustment to the white balance. So let's have a look in Lightroom. The white balance adjustment in Lightroom is, you find it under the basic panel, and there are actually 3 ways you can adjust the white balance. And basically white balance is you can adjust the mood in the photo so to look and feel exactly what you like. And this is a blue hour image that I took after the sunset. And the first way you can select here is the presets, and you can see now it says custom, and that's because that's the setting that I was straight from my camera. There are other selections here. I can use auto, daylight, cloudy, and all these selections here are the same options as I has in my camera. When I can set these directly in my camera, but as I always shoot raw, I can adjust these settings later. And if I try auto now, you can see that the image turns more like neutral. So Lightroom tries to make it neutral, and that's not what I like. So in this case the auto setting doesn't work. So and even daylight and the others there are not working. So that's the first way you can use these presets. The second way is to use the color picker here, and it's the white balance selection tool, and it's intended to find, you're supposed to find a neutral area. And in this image where I know there is a lot of blue in the sky, so everything that's supposed to be white has a blue color cast reflected on it. So it's very hard to select any neutral area in such an image. But it's not so important in landscape photography either, because it's more like what you prefer and what you like. But this area here that's kind of looks white, I can try. It turns the image blue, so it's not that bad. It's my taste. But I prefer to use the color sliders, and basically the temperature slider here makes the image warmer by adding yellow, and you can make it more blue by adding blue color. And the tint slider here is mostly to remove color cast, so you can remove pink or switch to more green if you like. But so basically in the white balance tools I use the temperature slider. That's my favorite tool. The second of the tools are the saturation and vibrance sliders, and most people like bold colors in their images, so the saturation adjustment is probably the most used slider in any editing software. But some photographers are not familiar with the second slider, the vibrance adjustment. So let's look at both of them here in Lightroom. I'll show you a few examples. The two sliders here at the bottom of the basic panels, the vibrance and saturation sliders, are typically a lot used when people edit photos. But it's basically the saturation slider that people tend to go to. The vibrance slider as well is a very important one. And the difference is that the saturation slider saturates all colors equally in a photo, whereas the vibrance slider tend to saturate weaker colors more than colors that are already strong, and that's a distinction to be aware of. So the vibrance sliders was basically made for Lightroom for skin tones. So if you boost colors in a photo with a face, you protect the face from being oversaturated, whereas the other colors are saturated. So we can see in this image, if I increase the saturation, we can see the whole thing here gets very funky and very saturated. Of course, now I'm maximizing it, but you can see all the colors are getting more saturated. If I reset the saturation and use the vibrance, you can see that now it interferes more on the sky area and the sea that has had little color from before. So it makes a difference. So now it's totally different on, and you can see that this clouds here gets really orange with the saturation slider, whereas the effect is less prominent with the vibrance. So often I use a combination of these. So you have to try on each image to see what works best, and sometimes you can increase the vibrance and reduce the saturation. So a combination of them is often the way to go to get the results you're after. The third option for color adjustment in Lightroom is the HSL panel, hue, saturation and luminance. And this is a very useful panel and one of my favorites in Lightroom. The HSL panel can look a little intimidating at first because of the many sliders and choices. But let's take a look at it. Let me show you what I mean. The HSL panel, which we can find under the tone curve here, is definitely my favorite way of adjusting colors. You can adjust the hue, which is the color, the tint of the color, and you can adjust the saturation, as we have seen in the other sections, and then the luminance, which is the brightness of the color. And there are two ways you can adjust all these three, is by using the sliders or by using the target adjustment tool here. So for this image here, let's say I want to give more punch to the grass. So I can try to increase the green, which of course the green area down here. Increase the green and we'll see that it brightens up the green. But also often green is a combination of yellow and green. So if I use the target adjustment tool, you can see now if I pick an area here and adjust the luminance, that both the yellow and green slider is moving. So it means actually that the color area here is a mixture of yellow and green. So that's why the target adjustment tool is very convenient to use. Now if I want to saturate the clouds, select saturation and use the target adjustment tool again, and I point here on this, on the orange area of the clouds and saturate it, and you can see that it also influence on the reflection in the water, but it has no influence on the grass. So this is a very nice tool to use if you want to target colors. You can target each and every color in the palette here, and you can adjust saturation and luminance. Definitely try to use the HSL panels and get used to it, because it's an extremely powerful tool. And the fourth tool for color adjustment is the split toning panel. And I don't use it a lot, but in my regular editing work. But I find it most useful when I want to test my creative ideas and to colorize black and white images. So if you have ever developed photos in the wet darkroom, you are probably familiar with the sepia and selenium techniques that we use to add colors to black and white photos. And you can simulate the same thing using the split toning panel in Lightroom. And here is how it works. The split toning panel, which you can find underneath the HSL panel, is also a powerful tool, but I don't find it very useful most of the time for landscape photos unless I want to experiment. But basically the idea with the split toning panel is that you add a color to the highlights. You can add, and typically you will add a warmer color to the highlights, and you can add a different color to the shadowy areas. So by picking the color here on this square, I can, and often these presets that are set in Lightroom is a good starting point. So for the highlights in this case, I picked this pink or paint yellow one, and you can see that the sky turned a little bit more warm. And I go down to the shadow and pick the blue. It's a very subtle difference. So if I switch on, off and on, you can see that it's just a slight difference. And now you can add saturation if I want to the warmer areas, and I can saturate even more the shadows. And then you can balance between shadows and highlight areas with this balance tool. So until you find something that is suitable. So this is just a very subtle difference. You can see that the mountain areas here gets more cold or bluer, whereas the lighter areas here get a little bit more warm color. The fifth tool to adjust colors in Lightroom is the tone curve. And this is another tool I don't use too often for the purpose of adjusting colors in my landscape photos, but it is also a global tool, but you can target specific tones in the image. The tone curve is not the easiest tool to get your head around, and it's easy to mess up the look when you start to drag the sliders. So let's have a look. The tone curve in Lightroom is a very powerful tool, but for adjusting tones basically, but you can also target specific colors and change colors, switch colors in using the tone curve. And you have to go to the point curve selector. And now you can see you have the RGB channel, all the three, red, green and blue, but you can select individually. So you can adjust the red, and what this tool does is that it transfers the color or switch the colors into the complementary color. And to remember the colors, I tend to use RGB and compare that to the SMYK color module, CMYK. The red corresponds to the C, so the red switch colors to cyan, and the green color to magenta, and the blue to yellow. So in this case, if I want to make this sky and the sky a little bit more pink here now, because that's the color, so I would go on the green channel, because then I know I can switch the color more over to the magenta. And this is the area, so the bright area, the sky. So if I just use the point now and drag it down, you can see now it turns more pink. But I want to protect the shadow area, so I can drag it a little bit up again, not too much. So now you can play around with, so I'm basically making the sky more pink. I turn it on and off. So this is before and after. So I simply made an S curve. But it's very easy to go crazy with this tool. So it just needs to be small changes. And you can also use the target adjustment tool in the tone curve panel. So you can select or target the colors that you want to adjust. And if you have a photo with blue skies and green grass, you will basically use the blue color and switch between yellow and blue. That doesn't work very well in this image because of the different colors, but it's very easy to go totally overboard and get wrong results. So play with it with care, but it can be a useful tool if you want to switch colors or maybe remove color or blue color in shadows, like for instance in snow where the snow turns blue. So you can use this to remove the blue color cast on the snow. And the sixth tool I'm going to show you is the local adjustments color picker. And this is the little secret I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And it's less known. It's a less known color adjustment I find to be very useful for some of my landscape photos. The color picker is only available when you are using any of the local adjustment tools in the basic panel of Lightroom. So let's take a look. So here's the little secret that a lot of users of Lightroom are not aware of. If you use any of the local adjustment settings like the graduated filter or the radial tool or even the paintbrush, you can target color. So let's look at this photo, and if I make a gradient on the sky here, so I hold the shift key and drag a gradient over the sky. The thing here is this color picker down here, so now I can select a color. Color picker, now I can select any color. Of course green doesn't work well, and so it must be some color that are related to the sky color. So maybe these pink areas here. And you can even, if I hold my mouse button now and move the picker over here, I can actually select a color from the sky. And that's probably the best way to do it. So now I can make the sky more pink, or I can make it more blue, whatever I like. And then I let go of the picker, and then I have my gradient. And you can, if I turn it on and off, you can see how it works. So it made the sky a little bit more pink. And here's another example, another photo. In this case I'm using the radial filter. So I want to make these colors of the sky a little bit more yellow orange. So I just drag a radial filter over this part of the sky where the colors already are, and then I pick the color from the color picker and add some orange color, or some orange red color, and that's it. So that made I added so it's already a more colorful sky, on and off. So this is before and this is after. A very powerful tool that a lot of people are not aware of. So as you have seen, Lightroom offers a lot of ways to adjust and modify colors. You have to experiment with the different settings yourself to see which tools you find the most useful for your work. But remember, it's easy to go crazy with colors, and no matter which of the tools you use, you need to be careful. But if your intention is to create natural and realistic looking landscape photos, the color adjustments have to be subtle. And this is especially important in landscape photography. So now, if you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up, and again, don't forget to click the subscribe button below. And thank you so much for watching the video, and as usual, if you have any comments or questions, post them in the comment section below. And until next time, ha det bra, goodbye.